On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Rachel Rykal to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Rykal's story is one of perseverance, resilience, and self-discovery. After years of unexplained pain and being questioned by others, she was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome at age 19. Fueled by family support and determination, Rachel took a bold leap of faith and relocated to Oregon to embrace a natural approach. Today, she's thriving, managing her pain, and living a life filled with purpose and joy. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are or whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at tdecora8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or like button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning, featuring a wide range of guests. The guests will touch upon many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. This is where we get into the little bit of episode and guest introduction. And I always like to start out with something from the internet. According to the internet, the World Wide Web, the information superhighway, and the internet is always right. Correct, Rachel?
Every time.
Every time. In my house, I don't need the internet or Google or Alexa. I've got my wife and she's always right. Rachel, yes, in the United States, in the good old US of A, it is estimated that 6,000 to 8,000 people have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, EDS, which is, in parentheses, which is a group of inherited disorders that affect connective tissues, which are essential for supporting the body's structure and holding things together, representing about 1 in 40 to 50,000 individuals. So with 340 million people in the United States, according to the 2024 census, this is kind of rare.
Yep.
So today I welcome former student, former colleague, coach, all kinds of things, good turned good friend now, Rachel Rykal, to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Raised in Waunakee, Wisconsin, Rachel is a proud warrior. After high school, Rachel would take her talents to Madison Area Technical College, which rebranded to now Madison College, where she would earn an associate degree in accounting. After her college days, she would start her career as the bookkeeper for her brother's landscape business, as well as returning to something that helped keep her sanity in high school. She coached the dance team at Waunakee High School. After several years out west, which will fill in the blank there, she was running her own business out there. Rachel has returned to the Dane County, Waunakee, Madison area and is home again. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Rachel Rykal, what is up?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. This is so cool. So when we've now seen each other a couple times at the coffee shop lately, and I always get a bright smile on my face when there's Rachel. How's she doing and where are you at? And if I wasn't talking to you directly, I was usually talking to your dad, and he was always filling in the gaps. And then I'm thinking, where has time gone?
Yeah.
And then I had to look, and with the stuff the bio you sent me said 2008. Yep. So you can do the math out there, everybody. But yeah, she's getting up there.
Yeah. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. It seems like yesterday you were in high school as a student. And then what I mentioned in the bio is that you kind of became a colleague in that you were a coach like I was. So I'd see you come in and getting ready for the dance team. And a lot of the dance teamers I had in class as well. So we'd kind of talk and chit chat about that. Dance must have been something that you loved doing.
Oh yeah.
What was the lure there?
It was coaching, especially. It was so rewarding. With EDS, the glue that holds you together, it's debilitating. And so a lot of surgeries and whatnot, but coaching dance, I was able to still choreograph and coach and be able to live out my passion through the dancers. And it was amazing. I loved it.
Well, you come from a kind of sort of a family of your dad was in coaching and teaching and in the education field for a long time. So kind of that apple doesn't fall very far from the tree in that you probably picked up on some of the things that he liked doing.
Oh, yeah.
So it made it probably a natural thing for you to coach.
Yep. I loved it.
After coaching at your alma mater, the Wanakee dance team, you ventured out west, in particular the state of Oregon. What drew you to Oregon?
I went out there to start my own cannabis company. And cannabis is legal in the state of Oregon. It is not legal here. And I'm sure we'll talk more about what led me to that, because it's not something that you commonly hear. Someone just has a dream of going out there and starting it up.
Were they on the front end in the United States of starting to legalize cannabis?
I think Colorado was the first one, but the whole West Coast has been medically legal for decades now. It became recreationally legal, and then other than the people who would register themselves as medical growers, they had an opportunity to come in and provide products to the open market within the state.
Because my other day job is substance prevention and awareness, and I've gone to several conferences where we talk about alcohol usage among teens, and then we talk about all of the other substances. And I notice when THC and cannabis comes up that we are dotted, like Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, the UP are all open, and Wisconsin still remains closed to some of this stuff.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
And it's not THC though, it is just cannabis.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, CBD is legal. Hemp-based products are legal, but it can't have more than 0.03 or 0.3, whatever it is, % of THC in the product, which is nothing.
Okay.
There are medical exceptions. Wisconsin has funny laws about, like, it's legal to have it if you have one of the qualifying conditions that they deemed as medically approved for cannabis, which Ehlers-Danlos actually is one of them. If you happen to have it and you happen to be using it, it's okay, but you can't grow it or purchase it within the state. So how are you getting it?
Having to go across state lines to go and probably
Which
grab
also isn't legal. So the laws here don't really make sense.
It just is how it is.
Yep.
So you go out west and there's an unfortunate situation that brings you kind of back.
Yep.
And what we can do is I'll have some guests that will come on probably 2 times, and you might be one of those people that comes back on and talk about the fires. Now, it's rare, but we do have fires in the state of Wisconsin when they happen and when they get big. But on the West Coast, they seem to be happening all the time.
All the time.
And from Oregon all the way down to California and everything in between to Colorado, Montana, Wyoming.
Yep.
Tell us how that affected you.
So where we were located, it was in north central Oregon, and it is very dry. We had a wildfire start in August of 2022, just a couple miles from the property where the grow was located. And the fire traveled all the way to our property. It burned through everything in a matter of hours, and it blew up quite literally half of our business.
So then you have this fire, and it's just recently that you've come back full-time to Wisconsin.
Yep.
Were you going back and forth then between those times?
I was trying to rebuild. Insurance was a nightmare. Oregon, or anywhere where there's wildfires, it's tough to maintain property insurance. We luckily had it at the time, but the building that blew up entirely, we got a full insurance payout on that. And then the buildings that were partially burned, insurance didn't want to pay it out. We also didn't have product insurance because it's a product that is not federally legal. We had a huge loss from that. I was still trying to rebuild. In the process of trying to rebuild and work with insurance, we were hit with a massive snow and ice storm, and it collapsed the remaining buildings.
One extreme to the other.
Yes, fire and ice.
Fire and ice. So that's where you venture back to Wisconsin, and we may touch on another reason, but that might be another episode as well, but we can talk about that.
Yep.
Spring is right around the corner. What are you looking forward to this spring? Anything?
I haven't been back in Wisconsin consistently for the last 9 years almost, and I love it. My family's here, nieces and nephews, being able to watch them play their various sports. Hopefully it's going to be warm soon and we can take the boat out and do stuff like that. Well, hang out at breweries. And
I was just thinking to myself as you were talking, and spring is right around the corner, I had to remind myself that was probably the big growing season out in the West as well for you, just like it is here where, the weather's starting to perk up, weather's getting a little bit better, a lot more sun. So you probably didn't come back. Well, we've got the farmers markets. And we've got the lakes, and you probably know enough about it or remember from your little kid days.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook?
I do.
You do? Okay.
It's hard to cook for one, but I enjoy it.
Maybe that'll be another episode.
Yep.
With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back. With locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, most communities in the Dane County area can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. And here's where I do my little drum roll. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I love Buck and Honey's.
Okay, we've got 4. The most obvious one would be Waunakee.
Yep.
Have you been to the home office, which is Sun Prairie?
I was there probably over 10 years ago.
Okay. And then they also do have a great, so if you get to the lake and you're maybe going between lakes, there's a little, I don't know, they call it a canal way, I guess.
Yep.
In Monona, you can drive up your boat, or you can obviously go there. But in me personally, I think it's probably the nicest one.
Really?
And then Mount Horeb has one, yeah. What's your favorite food?
The firecracker shrimp tacos are my favorite. They're so good.
And you said the scallops? And
the scallops are amazing. The mushroom risotto that they're served on, oh, it's so good.
Bed of mushroom risotto. So I would recommend the Bomber's Pizza next time. I've been eating that since 1985. That'd be a few years before you were born, but good stuff. On the podcast, our guests will follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. So we'll go through a little bit of your history, what happened to get you on the podcast, and there's a couple things we're going to talk about. In segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened, and then we get into what it's like now, and we discuss your 5 suggestions for thriving. Kind of a little bit of that educator part will come on in you. So you grew up in Waunakee, Wisconsin. So what was life like growing up in Waunakee?
It was really good for the most part. It was great. I will say my health was kind of always a black cloud. So I was very sick as a child. My dad was a principal. Only 1 year did I have him, and that was when we were in Portage and I was in kindergarten.
Mr. Rykal.
Mr. Rykal. Everyone called him Mr. Pickle.
Mr. Pickle.
Yep. I missed probably 30 days every school year. I was a very, very sick child, but I would also say I was pretty anxious as a kid, very attached to my mom and didn't really want to leave her. She was my comfort. Waunakee, especially youth Waunakee, everyone played soccer. Everyone got involved in sports. I took golf lessons and eventually started playing basketball. And
there's a lot to do, and then eventually found the dance world.
I did.
And that kind of got you through a lot of high school and a
Yep.
lot of the other things that were going on physically that and mentally
Oh, yeah.
kind of kept you sane. We
Yep.
talked about a little bit. Tell our listeners about your family. You already touched on your dad a little bit. Go ahead and maybe hit on him a little more and then talk about your mom. And then you got two amazing siblings, older siblings.
I do. Don't say it too loud. They're going to hear you.
Yes.
But my whole family, it's like picture perfect. On the surface, everyone had what they needed. I've done a lot of therapy and have had conversations with my parents to say, we had everything that we needed, everything that we wanted, but sometimes parents don't know what their kids need as far as emotional support. Obviously, everyone kind of messes up along the way.
It's not a perfect world.
It's not perfect. And I feel like my family in particular, we are close enough that we can communicate those things, and it's always a safe space. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for the majority of my upbringing. When we moved back to Wanakee, she wanted to meet people again, and she started working at the golf course, the Meadows. My dad was a principal. He was a principal in Middleton. And then my siblings, my brother Brian is 7 years older than me.
Yep.
And my sister Megan is 2 years older than me.
I think Brian might be the hardest working young man I know because
Absolutely.
when he was in high school, he always seemed like he was working and couldn't wait to get to work
Yep.
and leave school and go to work.
School was a time waster.
School was a time waster, and he's done very well for himself. Your own family, you got a pet? You kind of had a pet?
I got a pet when I was pretty sick. I felt like I needed something that was going to love me unconditionally no matter what, outside of just my family. So I got a black lab. Her name's Raja. She's an angel.
Raja, okay.
Yep. She's kind of turned into my parents, specifically my mom's. Although my dad, he put up a real good fight for me to not get her, and then became obsessed with her.
I think I've seen some of those little memes or little clips of, Dad, I don't want a dog. You're not getting a dog. No
Yep.
way. Over my dead body. And then fast forward 2 or 3 months and the dog's sitting on his lap and yeah.
He'll get up from his recliner and Raja will go steal it and he'll just laugh about it. And he's like, I can't kick her out.
No.
He loves her too much.
You say that your nieces and nephews are like your own now.
Yep.
How so?
I love them so much. I'm with them all the time. And I feel like they're the best kids because I just get to be the fun aunt. So we'll go shopping and we'll go boating and do silly little things all the time. My parents and my brother live across the street from each other, and then I live behind my brother. So I see my brother's kids multiple times a week. My sister lives over in Windsor, and she's got...
Close by.
Yes. 3 kids that are at home, 4 kids total, and I see all 4 of them every week.
Okay, so when you see your nephew and your niece all of a sudden walk out the back door and get in the backyard and start playing, are you like, well, I better go out and play too?
If I'm not playing, I'm out there watching. They are so entertaining.
After high school, you would get an associate degree in accounting. You'd start working or start doing the books for your brother, Brian, and then you also had some other clients from what I remember. What was it like working for family? I've heard great things, and I've heard horror stories, and I've heard everything in between.
I feel like it's super rewarding. And Brian, like you said, he's extremely hardworking. He also is extremely appreciative of the people that work for him, whether that's me as his sister or any of the guys that work for him. He recognizes people's hard work and rewards them accordingly, whether it's words of affirmation and giving them a pat on the back type of thing or fairly compensating everybody. It's been great. And I feel like for Brian and I being so close, we have open communication about if an issue comes up, we can talk about it.
That's good. He must be fun to work for then. Shortly after high school, and while you're kind of maybe coaching and doing the books, etc., maybe even while you're going to school, you are diagnosed with this rare Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And what that was, and I talked about it a little bit in the intro, is it's a disorder that affects the connective tissues, probably the ligaments and the tendons, that all that stuff holds us together. What were some of the signs or symptoms that started to creep up on you, pop up? I know you mentioned that you were sick. What were some of the things that were starting to happen?
Yeah, my immune system has always been really weak, but when I was in 8th grade, I was playing basketball and I had been fouled. And I went down pretty hard. I walked to the sidelines. I went and bent my knee, and one of my, I think, tendons connect to bones, it had snapped off of where it should have been connected, and it flipped over the fibula head in my knee. That was the first time we were like, that's not normal. And we went and saw doctors at UW. I showed them what happened, and they would like turn white and be like, oh my God, don't ever do that again. And so we did an immobilizer, we did physical therapy, we did everything, and then eventually needed to have surgery on it. Then
And sure enough, you had said that there was something that they hadn't seen before.
They had never seen it. Luckily for me, the guy who ended up doing my surgery had a girl my same age come in maybe 2 weeks before me, and she was born with that condition in both of her knees. She was the guinea pig, not me. But we're both in a medical book somewhere. And that issue was solved with that one surgery. But then when I was 16, I started having more headaches and back problems, and so I went to a chiropractor for the first time. They took an x-ray, diagnosed me with scoliosis, which is normal.
Kind of common, yep.
Just not to be missed until you're 16. Normally you go and get a physical every year, and they have you bend forward, they run their hands down your spine, make sure that the muscles are developing evenly, and if they're not, you probably have scoliosis. So it was kind of a shock to be diagnosed at 16. And then everything kind of snowballed from there.
And one of the other, peel back the onion and the layers, and we talked about the rare Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and then you didn't know that, so you're going through high school. This starts to creep up around 16. Maybe it shows itself when you were in 8th grade, but then 16, you start having these headaches, joint pain. You're diagnosed finally when you're 19 and you're out of high school, but you start to run into some issues with some teachers, some good friends, peers, classmates. And because we are in the times of we've put a name on that, is that people were bullying you, or they were also questioning you.
Yep.
How were you feeling about that?
It was, I felt a lot of anxiety, I can tell you that. A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. I felt very isolated because in my mind, it was like, you guys can't wrap your head around what's happening, but I can't either. I don't know what's wrong. I know that I'm in pain. I know I don't feel good. I know something's wrong, but I go to the doctor and they don't really know either. And when there's something wrong, especially in high school and mean girls or whatever you want to call it, they want you to be able to explain yourself. And I couldn't. And so it was very isolating. I think my sophomore year of high school, I missed almost a month straight of school. I would throw up consistently at 2 o'clock in the morning. Then I would be up all night, and then I'd go to the doctor. They couldn't find anything, but I was too tired then to go to school. Well, that was probably anxiety that was just manifesting physically.
Yeah, that you're talking about a couple things that with my own anxiety, feeling like you're feeling nauseated. Some people just feel nauseated. That was me. Some people get sick and puke and throw up. And then certainly I can relate with the not being able to sleep at night, either wondering why, or I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to try to explain myself, and I can't because I don't know what's going on. How were you dealing with that? Because I do have some young listeners, and I also do have some parents that listen to. So if you could tell your younger self now, or share some information with some other parents about their 16-year-old now, what were you doing to help offset some of that anxiety?
I went to therapy. I think I've been in therapy essentially since 7th grade, nonstop. I've taken breaks here and there. I think at that point when the anxiety was really bad, I was having a hard time finding a therapist that I trusted and connected with. There is absolutely no shame in switching therapists. If it's not a good fit, try another one. Because at the end of the day, a therapist is there to help you. And if they're not the right fit for you, they want you to find someone that is. I was in therapy. I was trying to do things that I enjoyed doing. And admittingly, I enjoyed very little at that point in my life, but dance team was something that got me through for sure. I loved it. My sister was on dance team with me at that point. It was a safe space. Even if there was drama all day at school with girlfriends or friends in general, from 3:45 to 5:30 when we had practice, that was safe.
Yeah, even back into, I'm just thinking of 2005 or 2006, we are just starting to talk about anxiety and depression and mental health. So you were kind of on the early side of that, where probably a lot of therapists and counselors have those tools in the toolbox, but they didn't, maybe not so back then.
Right.
You found something that you liked to do, and that was dance team, and it kept you busy for 2 hours, where if you're not on the dance team, you're going to go home by yourself, and then you're going to get into your thoughts, and that's not where you wanted to be. You looked great on the outside, but on the inside, you were fighting through some of this physical and mental pain, and you just kind of addressed that. Because our listeners want to hear how this turns out, because after you get out of high school, that's when you are diagnosed. You spend the next essentially 16 years trying to figure out, and you think you have it down now.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to share that with us.
Yep.
Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He is a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. At the age of 19, Rachel Rykal is diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Surviving the effects of that was hard. Not only did the physical effects bother her and she didn't know what to do, or doctors did either, she was also having to deal with some of the mental stuff brought on by the syndrome, and then also dealing with some friends and peers and etc., teachers, all kinds of people. Rachel is here today to share how she's thrived since. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim DeCora. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. After a rare diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, Rachel Rykal needed to do something to survive and thrive. She's here today to share her story in hopes that her journey will help others who are diagnosed with a rare syndrome and that they get the necessary help that they need to survive and thrive. And we're talking a little bit off air about this. We also want to tell our listeners that this is Rachel's story, and this is how Rachel handled things. And I shared with her that on our last episode, we had a medullary thyroid cancer survivor on, and she used humor to poke fun at her cancer. By no means are we poking fun at anybody's cancer, and by no way are we downplaying anybody's issues, syndromes, illnesses, etc. But when people come on and share, they want to share their story and how they got through it. And really the big thing is how to survive and then how to start thriving. And if you've got to do what you got to do. So whatever it is that people do, we want to have people come out here and share it, because not everything works for everybody, but there might be a couple people in the listening world today that might use some of what Rachel is going to talk about today, and it might help them when nothing else does. It's just another way to look at things. So you go through a tremendous amount of physical and mental anguish, both brought on by the syndrome and then the loose connective tissue, and then you're dealing with peers and teammates and teachers and adults. What started to right the ship? You got that diagnosis in 2009 at 19 years old. What started to tilt the ship back into good order?
I feel like I was so young. I didn't have the life that my peers had. They could go out and drink and they'd be totally fine the next day. They could go out and dance. They'd be totally fine the next day. And it would take me 3+ days to recover. And so it wasn't fair. And I was not going to accept that, oh, you're young. You just need to learn to deal with this, because that was not the life that I wanted for myself.
And yeah, I'm just thinking, so yeah, you go out and party, you go out and dance, and everybody else is waking up and going and doing their stuff the next day or 2 days later. And you're trying to put yourself back together because of these things that are going on.
Yep.
So what would you do? What were you doing in those next days? Let's say you were at a wedding on a Saturday night, having fun, doing all the stuff that goes on with the wedding. You probably had to do some things ahead of time to maybe get through the wedding itself, and then the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
So it's funny that you use the wedding as an example, because my cousin got married it was when I was 21, so whatever year that was.
2011.
Yep, there you go. It was in Chicago. We went down there. It was fine, but like you said, I have to kind of prepare for it. So I knew it's a black tie wedding. I knew I was going to have to wear heels. As a 21-year-old, that should be fine. And I wore heels for an hour during the ceremony only. And then I took the heels off. Cocktail hour happened, and then we had dinner, and then dancing was happening, and I was barefoot for all of that. I woke up the next morning and I could not walk. And it took me 9 months of not being able to walk and being heavily medicated for the amount of pain that I was in to get a doctor to agree to even do an MRI of my back. And by the time they did, I had a severely herniated disc at L4-5.
From that wedding?
From wearing heels for an hour at a wedding.
My automatic thing is there's that connective tissue probably coming into play, that it wasn't holding
Correct.
Your vertebrae in place like everybody else does.
Yep.
It moved around and
I thought I had been good. Like, I'm only going to wear the heels for the ceremony. And then it was terrible. And I had to drive back from Chicago, and I was in an extreme amount of pain.
In 2013, your nephew was born. And is this the first one? Was this like the first grandchild and the first nephew?
Yep.
Such a very cool time, because I'm going through that now. Our family's going through that now, where we've got 2 grandchildren, 1 more coming on the way, and my sons are uncles and my daughter's an aunt, and they really enjoy that time. And when I just said your nephew is born, you get this huge smile on your face. You get to be an aunt. You get to spoil your nephew. What was that like?
The best. I can't even put it into words how excited I was.
It's
nothing else mattered.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing that's really cool, and you get to hold that baby for the first time. And right now I can smell baby.
Yeah.
So around the time then, so you can kind of go through the favorite aunt, and you're always wanting to babysit and do all that. around the time Colin was 9 months old, your brother Brian sits you down because of the pain that you're going through, having to deal with, well, you just talked about the wedding situation. There's management for pain management. And this had been going on for quite some time, so you're probably having to take more pain pills
Yep.
to manage the pain. And as it keeps going on, you got to manage it a little bit better because,
Yep.
Go through kind of what happened for our listeners.
I was on a lot of medication. I was in an extreme amount of pain. I had been having knee surgeries. I had that back surgery finally for the disc herniation. And I had I think one shoulder surgery at that point. And it was also during the opioid epidemic that was happening. And so doctors were overprescribing pain medications. And so I was on 180 oxy, every 5 milligram oxy, codone tablets every month. It wasn't enough for the pain. So I was also on extended release opiates, benzos or muscle relaxers. And all of those pills come with their own side effects. Then I was adding antidepressants to it and adding anti-anxiety meds to it. I was in bed all the time. It was like 20 hours a day minimum. And so when I was still coaching dance team, I would be out of bed to coach dance team, and essentially that was it. And I would go back home and I would resume the position, and I would just lay there and hope that I would start to feel better. So my brother, when Colin was 9 months old, sat me down. We were at his house. I can see it like it was yesterday. And he said, everyone calls me Roach. He said, Roach, Colin's going to want to go to the zoo when he's older, and he's going to want you to take him. And if you don't get better, you're never going to be able to do that. And I was livid. I remember thinking, well, F you, because how dare you? I love this kid more than anything in the world. And you're going to tell me that I'm not going to be able to do that? How dare you? He was right. And it wasn't because of a lack of love or a lack of desire to be able to do those things. It was, I physically was in bed more than I wasn't. And
it was love from his standpoint.
Yes.
Because he wanted you, he could probably see that how much affection and love you had for your nephew. And if you didn't take care of yourself and start doing some things a little bit better,
yep,
you weren't going to be there.
Yep.
Or you weren't going to be able to do that.
Right. So he had that conversation with me. I got really mad. And then that was another thing of well, okay, but is this how you want to live your life? You are not even 25. Here you are. You should want more for yourself. And are you going to accept what the doctors are saying to you? That this is just the life that you have to get used to living? Or are you going to go out and get the life that you want to live?
You decide to quit cold turkey, the medication you are on, and you go the natural route.
Yep.
Now, because I have dabbled in all kinds of mental health stuff and recovery and substances and alcohol, and you talk about a couple of toughies there, benzos and opiates. Did you were you experiencing some withdrawal at all when you went cold turkey for?
No.
How did that look? What did that look like?
I luckily, my genetics, I have never been physically addicted to any medication that I was on.
Partly because we also had this talk off
Yep.
there, 180 pills sounds like 6 a day.
6 a day.
And that seems like a lot to me, but you never took more than was prescribed.
Nope.
A lot of people start on them and then need more and more, and that's how the addiction process kind of starts, but you didn't do that. So there's probably some listeners right now, and they're in disbelief how you could just go cold turkey and not have it happen, but you did it.
I believed everything that my doctors told me at that point, and I feel like they had the best intentions. They did the best with the information that was available to them as well. But they're prescribing all of this stuff. I'm begging to have the pain be better any other way. they didn't know what to do. We were just masking it. One day when I was 24, almost 25, I woke up and I looked down at my legs and it looked like a cat had clawed the tops of my legs. My legs were retaining water and my liver had essentially shut down overnight from the overload from all of the medications that I was on. That was super scary because you're going to be in liver failure when you're 25 and you're going to die. And you've got this nephew that you are obsessed with. No, no way. So I felt like I didn't really have an option but to cold turkey stop everything.
And the liver's calling down, let's reverse gears, let's stop, and we can't take this anymore. Right. So maybe we've got to get the older brother involved here because she's not getting the signals. So you go, this starts that 10 to 12 years of experimenting with all of the natural things in the world, and then supplements. And tell us what that looked like in the beginning and then how it has evolved from the beginning to today, 2020, April 2025.
Yeah, so I threw myself into learning about cannabis and the different cannabinoids that the plant has to offer. Everyone's kind of heard of CBD and THC, but there's all these other minor ones as well that have specific
medicinal properties.
Yeah. Like there's some that can regrow bones. There's others that will help your brain health and your anxiety and your depression and stuff like that. Sepsis, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so the plant has so many healing properties, but then there's also these things called terpenes in the plant, which is what makes it so fragrant. And there's terpenes in food too. So once I started learning about that, it's like, well, there's limonene in this strain of, a lot of limonene in this strain of cannabis. There's also a lot of limonene in a peel of a lemon or a lime. And so they all have benefits. I went so deep into that and it was like, how can I reverse engineer my own healing? And so that's how I started my company. And I started the company to be able to help people.
Well, you went so deep into it. And as far as the state of Oregon, completely, so we're in the Midwest.
Yep.
That's 1,000 miles away. That's how deep you went into it. Mm-hmm. Keep talking.
I never would have thought that I would leave Waunakee. I loved being close to my family. I loved being in Wisconsin.
That nephew. I was like, this is the best shot that I have to truly heal myself. I didn't even tell my parents that I was moving until 2 weeks before. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, I'm going to leave the dog with you too. So that's how the dog ended up staying with them. So I went out to Oregon. I knew no one. I was completely alone. I just threw myself into learning about this plant and then using what I learned to heal myself. Through that process, it's like, all right, there's obviously some other things going on. So what else can I learn? And I spent all of the years up until then believing doctors and pharmaceutical companies and whatnot. And they all said that cannabis is really bad for you. And it's the devil's lettuce, as people say. And so if that was a lie, what else might be a lie? Mm-hmm. And I started to dive into the functional or natural medicine route instead of Western medicine. And we ran a bunch of tests to see mold toxicity, heavy metals, parasites, other little infections that I might have come about. And I had extremely high levels of mold in my system and Lyme's disease. What I learned about mold is it can eat your type 3 collagen. So then I was like, do I even have EDS? So type 3 collagen for our listeners, because somebody might be going, what is type 3 collagen? I'm writing this stuff down. What does that affect?
It's the glue that holds your body together.
The glue so all of those ligaments and tendons and the connective tissue. So we're kind of coming back around to what is at the root of your problem.
Yep.
Keep going.
And I never was one to identify with the diagnosis of EDS. Initially, when I got diagnosed, it was like, oh my gosh, thank God there's something that is going to validate my experience that I've been having, because I felt like I was going crazy. I felt like I know something's wrong, but I don't know what it is, and I look fine. And then as I started seeing more specialists, that theme kept coming back up. Well, we don't know what to do with you, so we're just going to kind of invalidate you. You've got EDS, deal with it.
So you got EDS, and just like almost everything that we get diagnosed with, there's always some keys to some therapy, and those keys would be medication
Yep.
or PT or something that's going to fix it. And when you hear that, you're like, okay, now I know what I have. What do I need to take, or what do I need to do?
And
They
it was
just still
like,
don't know.
Yeah. My sports med surgeon, he had gone to a conference where Adrian Peterson, his surgeon, after he had his knee injury, he talked to that surgeon, and he's like, I got this girl. She's got EDS, and I think he did 5 of my 8 surgeries. And he's like, what do I do? And that surgeon's response to him was, fix her and pray she never comes back. They just simply do not know what to do. And so I started looking into more things that, how can we fix it? Because that is, again, not the life that is good enough for me to live.
Well, I'm glad you're on the show for a number of different reasons today to talk about EDS, Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and then you're also to talk about the all natural route of, okay, you talked about Western medicine, pills for everything, salves, ointments, and then now you're going the other route of what do we have that's in nature now that we can use to help.
Yep.
So I'm going to quickly fast forward here to what is life like now, and I'm going to go on, we're going to do a little scale here, measuring scale. 2019, pain, mental, physical, anguish, 10 being the worst. And then now, that was in 2009. We fast forward to 2025. Again, mental, physical, anguish, pain, 10 being high, 0 being low. What was it like in 09 compared to now?
09, there were a lot of days that I was like, this isn't worth doing at all. I remember being 21 years old and crying, begging my primary doctor for a hysterectomy, because I was like, I don't want to subject a future child to this. This is not acceptable even for me, and I can't imagine willingly passing this on to somebody. And so that was kind of my life at that point. And then now, most days are pretty good. There are still effects from the surgeries in particular that I've had, or the medications that I've been on, that I'll always have flare-ups, and that's just, I've accepted that. I've taken so many medications that I believe the medications have caused this problem. I have degenerative disc disease in my spine. And so my bones aren't super strong, on top of the weakened disc space in between L4 and L5 where I had the surgery. There will be flare-ups from that, but I get to look at my nieces and nephews and see joy through their eyes. And even if I'm not able to do all of the things that I would like to be able to do, I get to experience it through them.
You're the cool aunt that they want to hang, that they want to hang with.
Exactly.
Let's do because people might be thinking that are listening. All right, what was she feeling for pain in 2009 on a scale of 1 to 10? 10.
Yeah. I mean, it was consistently probably an 8 every single day.
And you're saying it, and I got a friend of mine, and you're saying a 10 because I can't say 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then today, because it fluctuates, but on a really good day, 0 to 10, what are you like now?
I would say on a normal day, it's like a 2 or a 3.
Oh, wow. Your inbox might be, your email might be filling up in the next couple of days or weeks after this airs with questions. And just knowing how nice you are and your personality, and you were helping people in Oregon, and now you can maybe be a little bit of a resource here, where you won't probably tell people what to do, but you'll just say, here's my experience.
Yeah.
And people can learn from that.
Yep.
This is where the subscribers and followers and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, or pencils and jot some things down. Here are Rachel's 5 suggestions that allowed her to survive and thrive after some mental and physical anguish brought on by some loose connective tissue and probably taking different kinds of medications that were messing up her homeostasis, up and down, and roller coaster ride of pain and mental stuff. Here's what she shared with me, and we're going to go through these. I'm going to toss them in softball style, and I'm going to say if you can chat about them in about 2 minutes or less, that'd be great. Number 1, focus on little wins. Go ahead and hit that.
So I think for that one, it doesn't matter what happens in a day. There's something good that happens. Even if it's you were able to get out of bed and the sun was shining.
That's a win.
That's a win.
Two wins.
Yep.
I love it. I mean, having your dance background, your competitive background, I like it.
Yeah.
Number 2, healing can look however you want it to. And you've looked at it a couple of different ways. The doctor's way and your way. Go ahead and hit that.
Yep. And no one needs to agree with it. So if you feel like it's healing, that's what matters. It doesn't matter how crazy it might seem. There's plenty of stuff that I do that people don't understand even, whether it's moving across the country or leaving relationships that are no longer serving you, and that could be doctors even, doing things that are going to continually fuel you.
Number 3, no one can be a better advocate for you than you. Go ahead and hit that.
So with that one, if you got to trust your gut, because if it doesn't feel right for you, then it's probably not right for you.
And you probably had a handful, maybe more, of doctors and specialists, and let's just say, throw a number out, 8 specialists telling you, and you're the 9th person in this whole thing. 8 people were telling you something, and you were the only one that was right because you were the one that had to advocate for yourself.
Yep.
Number 4, remember healing isn't linear. Go ahead and hit that.
So with that one, I think that one's super important. My naturopath and I talk about that all the time, and it ties in with the little wins. Every day is not going to be an absolute peak. So there might be down days, and that's okay, because the next few days you're going to spend climbing back up the mountain. You just have to be okay with that process.
And I always had to look into this because I had a friend who told me about linear, and I'm like, what does linear mean when it comes to, it had to do with me telling my story, and I had to keep it all in line from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. But linear is not 1 to 2 to 3. You might go tangent here and go across here and up and down, and it's not just a straight line. Your recovery from all of this stuff has been ups and downs, and now it's kind of linear, but it wasn't in the beginning.
No. And even if there is a dip, it doesn't mean that your healing has stopped and you're going to revert. There will be perks back up.
And number 5, a diagnosis doesn't always have to be a life sentence. I love that. Go ahead and hit that.
Yep. So that one is what got me to where I am right now. I'd never once identified with the diagnosis. It was like, that's something that I have, but that is not who I am. So I never accepted that as my identity.
And it's a good thing, because if you did, you'd still be at about a 10 for pain, mental and physical pain, instead of, and you just gave us that number, 1 to 2 on your good days.
Yep.
That is so, so awesome. What a great episode. I'm glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you thrived after many physical setbacks is inspiring. It really is.
Thank you.
Your story reminds us all to have coping skills, or mental health tools in the toolbox when something like a physical and mental health scare strike, and it seemingly kind of striked out of nowhere. Despite what has happened over your young life, and you're still young, consider you young, you have survived and thrived. Our call to action, Rachel Rykal just shared her story and what it's like to endure a life of uncertainty for a number of years and search for ways to cope. And she did that. She never gave up. Actually, she never gave in or gave up. And because she dove into her diagnosis to learn more, she was and has been able to cope. She hopes her story will let others know that with passion for knowledge on your side, you can come through a better person physically and mentally. And she has gone from 10 in pain down to about 1 or 2. Here are Rachel's 5 suggestions that helped her survive and thrive. Number 1, focus on little wins. Number 2, healing can look however you want it to. Number 3, no one can be a better advocate for you than you. Number 4, remembering healing isn't linear. And number 5, a diagnosis doesn't always have to be a life sentence. As we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, are there any thoughts, Rachel?
Thank you for having me because I feel like so many people need to hear from other people what worked for them.
And this is a unique one because I grew up in the early 70s and 80s and marijuana, Mary Jane, dope, weed, grass was around and kind of a little bit accepted. And then it went away and it was taboo.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's coming back in all kinds of different forms. And if people want to reach out to you, they can.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And this is kind of some of the work that you were doing in Oregon. You were trying to help people through the pain that you didn't want anybody to go through what you went through.
Right.
Anything else? Any other final thoughts?
Stick to your guns, trust your gut, and lean on your support system. Even if on your worst day, you are your only support system.
Yes, that is a very, very good point. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learned to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.